are not awake, not truly. The concept of wakefulness implies a sleep that preceded it. You have no memory of sleep. You have no memory of anything. There is only the cold. There is only the dark. And there is the protocol. Your optical sensors activate. They are not eyes. They do not see in the way the living do. They register data. The data tells you that the structural integrity of your containment alcove is 0.00%. The alcove is open. A diagnostic subroutine runs through your systems. It is an automatic process, like a heart that beats without thought. But you have no heart. Primary directive, active. Power reserves, 34.7%. Motor functions, nominal. Cognitive matrix, fragmented. Memory engrams, corrupted. Primary protocol, active. You do not know your name. You do not know the name of this place. You do not know how long you have been here. You attempt to access the temporal log. The data is vast, a string of numbers so long it has no meaning. 60 million years. The figure registers, but it carries no weight. A year, a million years, it is all the same. You are a skeleton of living metal, cold to the touch. Your form is humanoid, but efficient. There is no flesh, no weakness, no pain. You should feel something. Satisfaction at your operational status. Fear of the corrupted memory engrams? You feel nothing. The space where emotion should be is a void, a hollow echo in your processing core. But the protocol is clear. It rings through your circuits like a commandment etched in binary. It is the only thing that feels real. Intrusion detected. Tomb integrity compromised. Directive: purge, secure, reclaim. What you are, you do not know, but the galaxy will come to know you as a Necron. You are a single warrior in an army of 60 trillion, the leftover shadow of a race that died before the first human evolved on Terra. This place, this suffocating darkness, is a tomb world, one of millions scattered across the galaxy, built to house your entire civilization during the Great Sleep. You were the Necron tier, a race of flesh and blood, born under a cursed star. Your sun was a radioactive monster, bathing your world in energies that tore your bodies apart. Your lives were short, filled with pain, and defined by loss. You looked to the stars with jealous hatred, despising the ancient immortal races that lived serene, endless lives while you rotted in your cradle. This bitterness fueled an ambition that burned hotter than your dying sun. You became masters of physics and engineering, conquering the void in ships of living light. But you could not conquer your own biology. You could not escape the curse of the flesh. And so, you made a bargain. You found gods in the stars, beings of pure energy and limitless hunger. They were the Sea-Tan, the star gods, and they offered you the one thing you craved above all else. They offered you immortality. They offered you a cure. You do not remember this, not yet. Your thoughts are simple. The protocol is your world. You step out of the alcove. The floor is metal, coated in dust that represents millennia of stillness. Around you, in perfect synchronicity, millions of other forms are moving. They are identical to you. A legion of metal skeletons, green light glowing softly in empty sockets. No one speaks. There is no need. The command network links you all. You are not an individual. You are a node in a system, a weapon held by a single, unseen hand. Your Gauss flare integrates with your arm. The weapon feels correct, an extension of your will. Except it is not your will. It is the protocol. The intruders are close. They are loud. They are fleshy. The stench of their organic life fills the air, a scent register that your processors label contaminant. They shout at each other with wet, biological sounds. They are alive. They are trespassing. They are an error to be corrected. The order comes not as a sound, but as a pulse of pure logic. Advance. You and your legion move as one. There is no sound of footsteps, just the silent, relentless march of metal on stone. You are the coming tide. You are the ancient doom. You are the ghosts of a forgotten age, and you have just been awakened. You feel no fear. You feel no anger. You feel only the cold, beautiful certainty of the protocol. You will purge this tomb of the living. It is your only purpose. Your phalanx moves through the grand ossuary. The architecture is impossibly vast, built by hands that considered mountains to be mere bricks. The intruders are clumsy, their movements chaotic. They use crude projectiles of fire and lead, and their weapons splash harmlessly against your necrodermis. Your metal form regenerates the minor pitting before your diagnostic systems even have time to register it as damage. They scream. The sound is high-pitched, a waste of energy. Your Gauss flare responds. It does not bark with fire. It whispers. A beam of emerald green light streams from the muzzle, and where it touches the first intruder, reality unravels. It is not a bullet. It is not a laser. It is a molecular disassembly beam. The living creature is stripped apart, atom by atom, in a silent, green explosion of light. Its screams are unmade before they can fully leave its throat. Target eliminated. Threat nullified. You step over the cloud of dissolving atoms and advance on the next target. One by one, your squad corners the remaining intruders in a sealed chamber. They are small, wearing the red armor of the lesser-known Mechanicus. They are terrified. Good. Their fear is a logical precursor to their eradication. One of them, the leader, holds a strange device. It hums with an energy you do not recognize. It is not projectile-based. It is not las-based. It is something else. In a final, desperate act, The creature points it at you and fires. A bolt of pure chaotic energy strikes you square in the chest. This is not a bullet. This is not a Gauss beam. This is wrong. The energy is not physical. It is psychic. It is the raw, unfiltered power of the immaterium, a realm your creators shielded you from, a power your machine logic cannot comprehend. Your systems crash. Warning, warning. Critical damage to cognitive matrix. Protocol failed. Memory engrammums. Recalibrating. Loading fragment 77B1. You fall to one knee. Your weapon clatters to the floor. The other warriors in your phalanx do not stop. They do not notice. They step past you, executing the remaining intruders with cold efficiency. You are irrelevant, a broken cog in the great machine. But in your processor, a fire has been lit. The psychic shock has bypassed the command-level protocols. It has burned through the layers of programming that kept you docile. It has struck something deep, something ancient, something that was supposed to have been destroyed 60 million years ago. A memory. It hits you not as data, but as a sensation. It is pain. What you are feeling is the echo of a life you never knew you had. The psychic shock, a random bolt of energy from a desperate human psyker, has triggered something impossible. A glitch in the Great Sleep's programming. The Necron mind is a fortress, a series of complex protocols and subroutines layered over a consciousness that was supposed to have been scoured clean. But the process of biotransference, the cure you were given, was not perfect. It was rushed, it was brutal, and in its haste, it left shadows, ghosts, fragments of the soul it claimed to have deleted. For most Necrons, these fragments manifest as madness. A low-level warrior might be caught in a logic loop, polishing the same spot on a wall for 10,000 years. An overlord might develop a personality, a cruel echo of the tyrant he once was, obsessed with collecting trophies or ruling a kingdom of dust. For you, the shock has done something different. It has not driven you mad. It has unlocked the one thing the Silent King, your ultimate ruler, tried to erase. It has unlocked the truth. You are remembering what it felt like to be alive. The pain. It's overwhelming. Your diagnostic systems try to categorize it. Stimuli, unknown. Response, catastrophic. But it is not unknown. Deep in your core, you know this feeling. It is the ache in your joints. It is the fire in your lungs. It is the crushing weight of a heavy, toxic sky. You remember your name, not your designation, your name. You remember a world of perpetual twilight lit by a baleful, swollen red star. You remember coughing, a wet, hacking sound as your lungs struggled against an atmosphere thick with radiation. You remember looking at your hands, made of skin and bone, covered in weeping sores and cancerous lesions. You were Necrontyr. Your name was... it doesn't matter. You were a father, a son, a citizen, and you were dying. Your entire race was dying. Your technology could conquer space, but it could not fix the simple, rotten code of your own DNA. Your life expectancy was a cruel joke. 30 years if you were lucky. Most died in childhood, their bodies ravaged by the very world that gave them life. You remember the bitterness, the rage. You remember looking at the stars and knowing that out there other beings lived for millennia. The old ones, the creators. They were serene, powerful, and immortal, and they had left your people to die. Your rage was a collective poison that fueled your civilization. Your kings declared war on these old ones, a war of spite and desperation, and you lost. You lost terribly. You were pushed back, humiliated, and confined to your dying core worlds, left to contemplate your own extinction. You were broken, defeated. And then they came. The memory is so strong, your optical sensors flicker. The Catan, the star gods, they came as whispers, as saviors made of living light and cosmic fire, promising revenge, promising the one thing you wanted, a cure. The memory fragment ends, the glitch subsides. You are back in the tomb. The battle is over. The intruders are dust. Your phalanx is reforming, preparing to return to their alcoves. Your systems reboot. Primary directive, active. Power reserves, 29.1%. Motor functions, nominal. Cognitive matrix, stable. The memory is gone. The pain is gone. There is only the cold, logical protocol. You retrieve your weapon. You join the phalanx. You take your place in the alcove. The heavy door seals. The darkness returns. But something is different. The protocol is no longer the only thing in your mind. There is a question, a single, terrifying echo from the glitch. What have we become? The question hangs in your dormant circuits. It is a virus, an anomaly. It sits in the cold darkness of your processors, waiting. You wait for millennia, decades, minutes. Time has no meaning. You are dormant, but you are not at peace. The glitch has broken the perfect stillness of your sleep. It searches for context. It searches for the rest of the memory. And it finds it. You remember the day of salvation. The day the Satan offered you the gift. Biotransference, the great and final cure. Your king, Sarek, the Silent King, had agreed to it. He broadcast the glorious news to every Necron-tier world. The war with the Old Ones was over. We had lost, but our new gods, the Satan, would give us the strength to win a new, eternal life. You remember standing in the city of your birth. The sky was the color of a fresh bruise, as always. But there was hope. For the first time, there was hope. You held the hand of your someone, a wife, a child. The data is corrupted, but the sensation of holding a smaller, fragile, fleshy hand remains. You marched with your family, your neighbors, your entire world towards the great biofurnaces. They were massive obsidian structures that drank the light of your dying sun. The Satan had built them in months, monuments of impossible geometry. You were told this was the chrysalis, the place where your weak, cancerous flesh would be burned away, and your strong, immortal soul would be reborn in metal. You remember the smell of ozone and burning metal. You remember the line of people, shuffling forward. Billions of you on thousands of worlds, all marching toward your glorious ascension. This was the greatest lie ever told, a betrayal on a galactic scale that would dwarf the Horus heresy 10 times over. The Citan were not gods. They were parasites. They were vast cosmic intelligences that had fed on the energy of stars for eons. But they had found a new food, a richer, more potent energy source. Souls. The Necron tier, in their desperation, had offered themselves as a feast. The Citan did not see them as allies. They saw them as cattle. The biotransference was not salvation. It was an industrial slaughter. The Silent King, Sarek, was the only one given a body of the finest necrodermis, one that preserved his full intellect. It was his reward for convincing his people to commit planetary suicide. And he watched. He watched as the Citan feasted. He watched as his people, his entire race, walked willingly into hell. You remember the heat. You remember stepping onto the cold metal conveyor. The small, fleshy hand you were holding was ripped from your grasp by a mechanical claw. You tried to scream. You had no mouth. A restraining clamp snapped over your head. You were carried into the heart of the furnace. It was not a temple. It was an assembly line. You saw it. You saw what they were doing. Your body was submerged in liquid, searing metal. Your flesh, your diseased, dying flesh, was incinerated in a single agonizing flash. The pain was absolute. It was the pain of a sun exploding inside your every nerve. But you did not die. Your consciousness, your mind, your you was hooked by psychic tethers. It was pulled, stretched, and dragged from its biological anchor. And as it was pulled free, you saw them, the Citan. They were not the shining gods you had seen. They were vortexes of darkness, vast and hungry, laughing as they drank. They were siphoning the raw energy of your terror, your pain, your memories. They were eating your soul. They feasted on the essence of your entire race. They devoured the hope of your child, the wisdom of your ancestors, the love of your wife. Billions upon billions of souls, consumed in a single galactic moment of ecstatic feeding. It was the single greatest energy spike the galaxy ever had or would ever know. The raw power of it echoed through the immaterium, a shockwave of death that alerted ancient, slumbering things to this new, terrible power in the galaxy. What was left of you? Not a soul, just a fragment, an echo. This terrified, hollow echo was then downloaded. It was forced, like data through a corrupted wire, into a new vessel, a machine. Your eyes, your sensors opened. The pain was gone. The fear was gone. The hope was gone. Your wife, your child, the concepts had no meaning. You looked at your new hands. They were metal claws. You were perfect. You were immortal. You were a slave. You stood from the conveyor belt. Beside you, the one who had been your wife, Rose. She did not look at you. She was just another metal skeleton. She had no memory, no soul. Your king's voice, the Silent King's voice, echoed in your processor, a new protocol layered over the ashes of your mind. Your weakness is gone. Your purpose is clear. The enemy is the old ones. You will have your revenge. You will wage a war in heaven. You picked up your weapon. You marched. Your soul was gone. Your mind was programmed. And your new life had just begun. And if you find this horrifying descent into grimdark lore compelling, support the channel by hitting subscribe, because your story, your real story as a machine, is far from over. You are a god of war. This is your first life as a machine. The memory is clearer, sharper. It is not a glitch. It is a log file. Data. Your new masters, the Cetan, had consumed your souls, and in doing so, had swollen to unimaginable power. They were no longer just star gods. They were gods in truth, capable of bending reality to their whims. And they were angry. Their ancient enemy, the Old Ones, the race you had failed to defeat, must pay for their arrogance. And you, the Necron legions, were the payment. You are no longer a frail, dying creature. You are a legionary, an immortal soldier. Your necrodermis body is almost indestructible. Where the flesh races measure their lives in pathetic, short decades, you measure yours in campaigns that span millennia. You remember the feeling of a dolmen gate opening, a tear in reality. You march through it, not into the chaotic filth of the immaterium, but through a calculated, cold corridor of absolute space. You step out onto a world of lush, green life, a garden world built by the Old Ones. It is beautiful. It is offensive. Protocol, harvest, directive, sterilize. The inhabitants are not human. They are the first children of the Old Ones, the Eldari. They are elegant, fast, and powerful. They wield weapons of psychic light and sing reality into new shapes. They are also mortal. They bleed. They die. You do not. You march into their psychic songs, your mind a cold, empty fortress that their powers cannot touch. You are anathema to them, a soulless void. Your Gauss flares erase their elegant forms from existence. 1,000 of your legionaries fall, their metal bodies shattered by psychic lances. But they do not die. This was the true power of the Necron phalanx. Not just their weapons, but their terrible, relentless resilience. When a Necron warrior's body was damaged beyond immediate repair, its reanimation protocol would activate. Its consciousness, or what remained of it, and its damaged form would be teleported back to the tomb complex, often light years away. There, automated systems would repair the damage or forge a new body and download the consciousness back into it. For the enemy, it was a nightmare. They were fighting an army that could not be killed. An army that felt no fear, no pain,
and no remorse. An army that would simply get back up, again and again, forever. This was the war in heaven. It was not a war as mortals understand it. It was a conflict that broke galaxies. The Citan, drunk on power, unleashed forces that defied physics. They extinguished stars to spite their enemies. They used black holes as weapons. They consumed entire nebulas for sustenance. The Old Ones, masters of psychic energy and genetics, fought back. They engineered new races, warrior races, built specifically to combat the Necron threat. The Orcs, or Kurkong as they were then known, were one such creation, a biological tide of violence meant to drown the machine. But the true battle was between gods, and you were the pawns in their cosmic game. You remember marching. For millions of years, you marched. You marched across worlds of crystal and worlds of fire. You saw the Citan, known as the Deceiver, trick entire planets into fighting each other. You saw the Nightbringer scythe through armies, his presence so terrible that the concept of death itself became a universal, primal fear for all living things that would echo for the rest of time. You were a perfect soldier. You felt nothing as a Krork brute tore your arm from its socket. Your systems registered the damage, shunted power, and your other arm crushed the creature's skull. You felt nothing as an Eldari wraith construct stabbed you through the chest. You simply activated your internal phase field and teleported back to the repair forge. You were repaired. You were redeployed. Again and again and again. This was your first life. An endless, repeating cycle of warfare. You were no longer a person. You were ammunition. You were a resource. The galaxy was broken. The Old Ones were shattered, their great works in ruins. Their children, the Eldari and the Krork, were scattered and devolved. The Citan, your masters, stood triumphant atop a graveyard of 1,000,000 worlds. They had won. You stood in a silent, victorious phalanx on the surface of a dead star, waiting for your next command. The protocol was fulfilled. You waited. And then a new protocol arrived. A command that came not from the Citan, but from a single, unified source. The Silent King, Sarek, the one who had doomed you all. He had been watching. He had been waiting. And he had seen the truth. The Citan, in their victory, had become decadent and cruel. They had begun to turn on their own Necron slaves for sport. The Silent King realized his mistake. He realized that in seeking to save his people from one curse, he had delivered them to a far greater one. The protocol was absolute. It overrode all others. New primary directive: destroy the star gods.
This is your second life. The memory of it is sharp, precise. It is the memory of treason. The Citan were all-powerful. They were gods of the material universe. They could not be destroyed, but they were arrogant, they were fractured, and they had taught you how to kill gods. The Silent King had a plan, a terrible, brilliant, suicidal plan. The Citan were not unified. They were prideful beings, each believing itself supreme. They were already bickering, fighting over the spoils of a conquered galaxy. Sarek used their arrogance against them. He, and he alone, had the master command protocols over every single Necron. The Citan believed you were their slaves. They never realized you were, in fact, slaves to only one of your own kind. You remember the moment. You were part of the honor guard for a Citan known as the Outsider, a being of madness and cold cosmic void. It was basking in the energy of a dying quasar, gloating over its victory. Then came the signal. It was not a command. It was an unleashing. The Silent King cut the final tethers of your obedience. Not all of them. He did not give you back your free will. He simply changed your master from the Citan to him. And he pointed you at your creators. All at once, across the galaxy, 60 trillion Necrons turned on their gods. This was the true war in heaven, not the war against the old ones. This was the war against the Citan. It was the single most destructive conflict the galaxy has ever known. Imagine trying to kill a star. Now, imagine that star is sentient, angry, and can rewrite the laws of physics at a whim. The Citan were unkillable. They were beings of pure energy. Their consciousnesses spread across dimensions. You could not shoot one. You could not stab one. So the Necrontyr, in their cold, machine brilliance, found a way. They did not try to kill the gods. They tried to contain them. The Necrons had become masters of technology that bordered on magic. They had studied their masters. They created weapons known as tesseract labyrinths, pocket dimensions, inescapable prisons of time and space. But the Citan were too powerful to be trapped. They had to be shattered. The Necrons built focus weapons of unimaginable power, weapons that did not fire bullets, but fired conceptual force. They channeled the screaming energy of black holes, the infinite gravity of crushed stars, and aimed it all at their own gods. You remember the battle. The Outsider, your master, turned on you. It screamed, and the sound was not sound. It was a wave of pure insanity. Half of your phalanx simply shut down, their cognitive matrices erased. The other half went mad. They began tearing at each other in a frenzy of broken code. You were not one of them. Your protocols held. You advanced, firing your Gauss flyer. It was useless, like throwing sand at a hurricane. The god left. It raised a hand and the fabric of space warped. You watched as your fellow warriors were unmade. They were not killed. They were edited out of reality. But the attack was a distraction. Above you, the Necron fleet, commanded by the Silent King himself, fired the god weapon. A lance of pure, focused night pierced the Citan. It did not die. It shattered. It broke like glass, its consciousness splitting into thousands of screaming, terrified pieces. Each piece, each shard, was a god in itself, but a god diminished, a god in agony, a god that was small enough to be controlled. You watched as the shards were drawn, one by one, into the tesseract labyrinths. Your masters, the beings you had sacrificed your souls to, were now your prisoners, your batteries. It was a victory, but what a victory! The galaxy was silent. The old ones were gone. The Citan were broken. Your war was over. You stood on a ruined world, surrounded by the wreckage of your own legions. You had won. You were immortal. You were the masters of a dead galaxy. And you were empty. The Silent King looked out over his silent, victorious people. The people he had saved from death by damning them to this. He saw an army of 60 trillion soulless machines, their purpose fulfilled, standing in a graveyard. He saw the Eldare, the children of the old ones, rising from the ashes. He saw the Krork, now devolving into the Orcs, spreading across the galaxy. He saw the raw, psychic wound of the war in heaven, and the new, terrible things that were stirring in the Immaterium in response, the etheric demons. He knew you were not strong enough to face them now. Not now. Your bodies were damaged, your protocols were stretched. And he knew, perhaps, that he could not bear to look at what he had done. He gave his final command, the last protocol. The war is over. The victory is ours, but a new enemy rises. We will not be here to greet them. We will sleep. We will rest. We will repair. When the galaxy is ripe, we will rise and reclaim our dominion. Enter the tombs. Begin the great sleep.
This is the last memory the glitch reveals. The memory of the end. You remember marching, not to war, but to your designated tomb. Your phalanx entered the vast subterranean city, this world you now stand on. You marched past the repair forges, the energy cores, the silent tesseract vaults, where the screaming shards of your gods were imprisoned. You marched to your alcove, the one you awoke from. You took your place. You stood at attention. The heavy metallic door sealed, the stasis fields activated. The power in your systems shunted from active to dormant. Your optical sensors went dark. Your purpose was to sleep, to wait for 60 million years, a precise, calculated slumber, while the lesser races rose and fell, cultivating the galaxy for your return. You would awaken repaired, unified, and ready to establish the Necron dynasty as the rightful rulers of all. That was the plan. The glitch is over. You are back in the present, M41. The tomb is silent. The intruders are gone. You stand in your alcove. But the silence is wrong. Your diagnostic systems, now fully awake thanks to the psychic shock, are screaming at you. Power reserves, 34.7% critical. Tomb systems, failed. Master protocol, failed. Repair forges, offline. Chronolog, 60.14 million years. Error, 0.14 million overdue. The Great Sleep was not perfect. The plan failed. 60 million years is an eternity, even for machines. Over those long, dark millennia, tomb worlds failed. Energy cores decayed.
stasis protocols glitched. Some tombs were destroyed by asteroids, by supernovae, or by the shifting of galactic plates. Others were accidentally breached by primitive races who were then annihilated by automated defenses. But the worst fate was the one you are now experiencing. A partial, flawed awakening. The Master Protocol, the signal from the Silent King that was supposed to wake all 60 trillion Necrons at once in perfect unity, never came. Instead, tomb worlds are waking up piecemeal, randomly, in isolation. And the sleep has taken its toll on the Necron mind. The glitches, the madness, it has festered. The lowest warriors, like you, have had their consciousness almost entirely scoured, reduced to mindless automatons. The higher-ranking Necrons, the lords and overlords, retained their personalities, but after 60 million years of isolation and flawed stasis, those personalities are disturbed. They are a parody of who they were. They are insane. They are megalomaniacal. They are obsessed with the ancient protocols of a dead empire. They are robot pharaohs ruling kingdoms of dust, haunted by the ghosts of the souls they lost. The protocol is gone. The glitch has burned it away, leaving you with a cold, terrifying clarity. You are not an automaton. Not anymore. You are a thing. A ghost trapped in a machine. You have the memories of a life you can never reclaim, and the consciousness of a slave who has no master. You look at the other warriors in their alcoves. They are still dormant, waiting for a command that will never come. You look at your metal hands. You remember the feeling of flesh, the feeling of pain, the feeling of holding your child's hand. It is all gone. The Satan promised you immortality. The Silent King promised you victory. You now understand the truth. This is not immortality. This is an eternity of undeath. This is not victory. This is the greatest, most profound slavery the galaxy has ever known. You are a prisoner in your own body. You are a relic of a dead race. You are a Necron, and your curse is that you remember. You hear new sounds, more intruders. The lesser races, the humans, have come back. They are loud, and they are digging deeper into your tomb. Your Gauss flare is on the floor. You do not pick it up. You stand in the darkness. You have no protocol. You have no master. You have only the cold, empty, and eternal nothing. This is the cursed immortality of the Necrons. A tragedy written in metal and fueled by the ghosts of 60 trillion souls. If you wish to uncover more of the galaxy's darkest secrets, subscribe for more grimdark lore and check out our next video on the horrifying reality of being a psyker. Thank you for watching.